On the first day of the week, at the first sign of dawn, they went to the tomb with the spices they had prepared. They found that the stone had been rolled away from the tomb, but on entering discovered that the body of the Lord Jesus was not there. They stood there not knowing what to think, and two men in brilliant clothes suddenly appeared at their side. Terrified, the women lowered their eyes, but the two men said to them, "Why look among the dead for someone who is alive? He is not here, he has risen. Remember what he told you when he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man had to be handed over into the power of sinful men and be crucified, and rise again on the third day." And they remembered his words. When the women returned from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and to all the others. The women were Mary of Magdala, Joanna, and Mary the mother of James. The other women with them also told the apostles, but this story of theirs seemed pure nonsense, and they did not believe them. Peter, however, went running to the tomb. He bent down and saw the binding cloths, but nothing else. He then went back home, amazed at what had happened. This gospel passage is all about what happened early in the morning 2,000 years ago by a newly made tomb in the rock outside the city walls of Jerusalem. The tomb is quite near one of the city gates, where people would have been coming in and going out the whole time during the day. The women arrive early in the morning to anoint Jesus' body, which they couldn't have done until the Sabbath ended. They brought spices to anoint the body of the Lord. This was a very usual thing to do. One of the spices would have been myrrh. Remember the gifts of the 3 wise men: gold, frankincense, myrrh. Gold to signify kingship, frankincense to signify God, Jesus' divine nature, and myrrh to signify death. Anyhow, here come the 2 Marys and Joanna. Just so we're clear, these women are Mary Magdalene and another lady called Mary, who is not the mother of Jesus, but the mother of James, and another. But when they get there, the stone has already been rolled away, and into the tomb they go. Jesus, though, is not there. All the Gospels agree. Jesus is not where he had been laid in the tomb. He is gone. And as they do, they see appearing right next to them 2 men in bright shining clothes. The Gospel writers differ on how many angels there were. Mark and Matthew say 1, Luke and John say 2, but they all agree. The tomb was otherwise empty. The tomb was empty because Jesus is risen. With just a few words, the most extraordinary event ever is announced. The angels say simply, "Why look among the dead for someone who is alive? He is not here. He has risen." The angels remind the women of Jesus' words. Jesus has told them over and over again what would happen. The Son of Man will be handed over into the power of sinful men and be crucified, and rise again on the third day. Luke tells us that now the women remember Jesus' words, that he would rise again. They hadn't understood before. Jesus had told them many times, but they just hadn't took it on board at all. They go off and tell the disciples, but in their grief, the 11 just cannot believe what the women are saying. That is, until Peter runs to the tomb, sees the cloths that bound Jesus and nothing else. He is properly amazed at what he's seen and goes back home, presumably also to share what has happened. What Jesus had told them hadn't been some kind of metaphor. It hadn't been some kind of fable. Everything he had foreseen had come to pass, being handed over to the authorities, his trial, his death, and now his resurrection. Not the fanciful musings of a mere wandering teacher, but the fulfillment of the ancient prophecies. The fulfillment of God's promise to his people, the coming of the salvation of the world.